Well, here's another video I didn't intend to make at the start of this month. Hey guys, Caleb here from CDBS Studios, and in my last video, I kind of alluded to the fact that September was a little bit of a weird month for movie channels specifically, because, well, there's nothing really new being released, as September's kind of that transitionary month between the summer blockbuster season and the October horror movies that transition to the fall watch season. So, seeing as there wasn't a lot of new stuff being released, I also took some of the time this month to catch up on a bunch of the summer movies that I actually missed when they first came out, using some of those subscriptions that I just have. And one movie that I decided to finally go ahead and check out is one that a lot of people have been talking about these last few weeks: K-Pop Demon Hunters. And this film, if you haven't seen it, is surprisingly one of the best films I saw last summer, or that came out last summer at least. This was probably one of my biggest shocks of the entire year. And Sony in general is just a studio that's had the biggest comeback story ever. Like, they went from making Open Season to making Spider-Verse, Mitchell's vs. the Machines, and now K-Pop Demon Hunters. Like, that just is shocking to me, that comeback. And I needed a video this month, and of all the movies I've seen catching up, this is the one I have the most passionate thoughts on, I guess. So I'm going to take you through, I guess, a little bit of a late review, and I'm going to tell you guys why K-Pop Demon Hunters is one of the surprisingly best films of 2025. So to start off this video, I'm just going to talk about the premise. The premise alone is very important when you see a movie because it's what hooks an audience on the story and makes them want to keep watching the movie. And one of the biggest ways you can sell your premise is with your title, as titles can convey a lot of things in just a short amount of words, as in a lot of times a title gives you either the name of the character you're about to watch or movies that you're about to see. Think about other movies this summer: Superman, The Fantastic Four, Lilo and Stitch. You know what you're getting or who your title characters are going into those movies. And I'm not gonna lie, the one of the reasons I missed this movie initially is because the title K-Pop Demon Hunters isn't a title, to me at least, that promises quality. One of the main reasons that when I looked at this title and I looked at the title is it is basically two concepts rolled into one: K-pop and Demon Hunters. So the first thing I think when I see the title is, okay, musical group and then fighting demons. But inherently, at least the way my mind worked, those are two very different premises that don't really mesh well together, as music group mixed with fighting demons didn't really seem like two areas that overlap well. And even just looking at the just title in general, I'm not a huge fan of K-pop. So I didn't think that that was also going to be a good side to the story. Honestly, thankfully I was wrong, because the movie was a whole lot better than that title set itself up to be when I first saw it. But so that was just something that I was not huge on. And the premise alone is a very simplistic kind of story that you would expect from any animation studios, and it was a Netflix original, and Netflix recently has been kind of hit or miss with some bad things recently, like Wednesday Season 2 and Happy Gilmore 2, but then also having some genuine gems as well thrown in there. So yeah, this movie in general, just its premise and trying to hook me on it, did not do well, and that's why it took me so long to see it. And I'll also just say, because I didn't really know where else to fit this in the script, the animation in this movie looks gorgeous, as Sony really is just shaking up the animation genre, as this movie basically looks like a traditional animated movie in some cases, but then also dips into the anime pool at times. Some of the fight sequences in this movie and the facial expressions they give the main characters literally just looks like it's ripped out of an anime, which was just makes the animation in this movie look all the better. And it's honestly one of the most praised things about this movie, so I just wanted to bring it up here because I didn't have too much else to really say about the animation anywhere else in the script, so this is just where I'm going to mention it right here and now. But your premise can only take you so far. It's one thing to hook an audience, but then you got to keep the story going. And the characters are obviously one of the most important part of any story, as they're the people that are showing us the story we're going through, teaching us about the thing. And one of the things that I think some movies can fail at is setting up their characters. As some movies feel like they take way too long to do it, some movies don't do it at all, and it just creates for a very interesting dynamic. This movie in particular, the main characters of the Huntrix band, they set them up quickly and effectively. I feel like each one of the characters within the first like 5 minutes of this movie, I know who each of them are, I know their personalities, I know so much about their characters, and we haven't even gotten that much into the movie yet, which I think is just great, because when you set up the characters that early in the story and you get their baseline personalities down, it allows for them to grow over the course of the rest of the story, which I think is really important for the main character specifically. I also really like the manager character in this movie. He's a thankful subversion of this type of character, because a lot of the times in these kinds of stories, they make the manager characters really bad people that are always like exploiting the stars that they are managing and that. Thankfully, this character is actually like a nice guy who actually cares for the girl's safety and that. He doesn't know about the demon hunter side, but I mean, he's still a really good person. And then I also like the only real issue I guess I have with the characters is I think the villains can be a little underdeveloped. The head demon guy, Kigum, is that how you say his name? Gima or something like that. He's kind of underdeveloped. He's basically just like scary demon guy who rules the underworld. Doesn't really have much else going for him. And then I think also the Saja boys, apart from Genu, are very underdeveloped. Like, I think Gino is the only one we ever learn anything about. And it's kind of unfortunate because it just means that all the other villains in this movie are kind of flat and basic. But, you know, it's fine. But like I said, this movie does a really solid job with his characters, because within the first 10 minutes, by the time we hit the 10-minute marker, we know all of our main characters. We know enough about them to build a baseline like personality and understanding of their arcs, which allows them to grow over the course of the rest of the movie, which I think is really strong for an animated movie of this caliber. Which brings us to talking about the story itself. And unfortunately, I gotta say, the story is what my main issue is about this film. It's not that the story is bad. I think it's a really fun tale that has a lot of really profound themes in them and some really great moments throughout. But there also are some really poorly paced segments. Definitely near this middle of the second act, I was getting a little bit bored at points, and it just is that's not good for a movie like this where it kind of lost me a little bit in the middle. But other than that, the story overall is just really solid across the board. I mean, it's not doing anything really subversive or anything really like out of the ordinary for like an animated film, especially in 2025, but it definitely has a lot of those really profound themes and great emotional climax moments that you expect from like a top tier DreamWorks or Pixar movie. So really good to Sony in that regard. And it's just a really fun story that really handles itself well with pacing, except for that middle section where I started to get a little bit bored. However, you can't really make a video about K-pop Demon Hunters without talking about the songs. They are very clearly the highlight of this film, as they've been breaking like tons of records in the real world and stuff. Like, it's crazy how high those songs have taken off. And this is honestly one of the reasons this movie was so shocking to me when I first saw it. Even is I mentioned at the start of this video, I'm not a fan of K-pop at all. Like, I could care less about that genre in general, but somehow this movie really made me care about K-pop. And even the songs that there's so many catchy songs that I found getting stuck in my head, and even a couple of them that have made their way onto my playlist I've discovered. And that's honestly good, because one thing I can honestly say, the reason this movie is so shocking is there's not a single bad track in this entire soundtrack. Like, there's so many, like, there's no tracks in this soundtrack that I think are bad, which is rare, because especially many of the recent musicals I've seen have at least one or two songs that I dislike. My favorite musical of all time, The Greatest Showman, has like at least three songs on that soundtrack that I'm not a huge fan of. But this movie has no bad musical tracks on it at all. Having clearly some of the standouts for me personally is I'm really a fan of This Is What It Sounds Like and Free, but even the other songs in there are catchy, memorable, and there's a reason these songs took off the way they did, because they really are that good. But I think the thing that makes this the music in this movie so like profound, and the reason it stuck with people, is because Sony followed the Disney musical format when making the movie. Now, what I mean by that is Disney, when they made their musicals back in the Renaissance and that, their songs worked on their own so that you could just listen to them on your own accords, but then also they're inserted into the story in meaningful ways. They're placed pretty nicely apart where we can actually have some profound character moments in the story, but then the songs are placed at the perfect moments of just when you think you're starting to get a little bored, the song comes in and gives you something to laugh and hear and get stuck in your head. And each of the songs is used to push forward the story. Think many of the songs in The Lion King and The Little Mermaid, many of those songs exist to push the story forward. Every single song in K-Pop Demon Hunters does that, where each song has a purpose for being in the story, and it allows to push the story forward. And even a lot of character development happens in these songs. I think that's personally why I like This Is What It Sounds Like in Free Bets, because they're some of the best songs when it comes to character development in that. Bottom line is, I was not expecting to enjoy this movie as much as I did. Like I said, I've been pushing off this movie for a while now, and finally decided to check it out in my September watch the movies I missed over the summer era. And this was a solid movie. I personally gave it an 8 out of 10. It's a really solid movie that has a genuine shock, but it does have those couple issues I mentioned, mainly the pacing near the middle of the movie. And I think there's a couple things they could have done here and there a little bit better, like develop the villains a little bit, but overall, this was a genuine shock, and honestly, I'm going to be surprised if at the end of this year this movie isn't in my top 10 favorite movies of the year, because especially where it is currently on some of my other movies, which you can see a little bit on my Letterboxd account, there's definitely not that many movies above K-Pop Demon Hunters right now in my overall 2025 ranking. So, this movie was a genuine shock, probably the most shocking movie I've seen from this last summer. And honestly, finally, I understand why this movie took off the way it is. We'll see in a couple months if I still feel the same way about this movie, because I do have a disdain for Frozen because it became so popular. But then again, this movie's better than Frozen in almost every way. So, maybe this will hold up. So, this movie's really fun. It's a really good movie. If you have not had the chance to check it out, maybe you should consider it, because it really is that good. It's definitely not one of those movies that is very overhyped. So, I want to thank you guys all very much for watching this video, and let me know your thoughts. If you've seen the movie, what did you think about K-Pop Demon Hunters down in the comments? Without further ado, thank you guys all very much for watching this video. I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.